Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a very fall active pattern that is starting to take shape across the United States. What that basically consists of is large storm systems, larger storm systems than the ones we've been dealing with, colder blasts of air, and snow that is beginning to appear more and more on the map, more and more blue. So I think it will be a very, very exciting video, a lot of stuff to talk about, not necessarily about one particular event, but again, more of a pattern. Before we get into this, if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. Check out the channel, check out the videos, watch the video. Consider subscribing if you do end up enjoying it. If you are a returning viewer and you haven't subscribed, consider doing that. Consider hitting the thumbs up button. If you have any comments or concerns, leave them down below and I will get my best. I'll do my best to get answer them. I answer most comments. So if you have a question, leave it down below right now and give it a shot. I'll most definitely probably see it and answer it. Okay, without further ado, let's start talking about this active fall pattern. So as I was saying, we will begin by looking at the GFS. This is a global forecasting system. It is a very, very, very good model. It goes much further out than the European model, which is kind of considered a classic of all weather models. The European stops at 240. The GFS, you could see, adds on many more columns of time. So it's really nice to have a model that goes out a bit far, even if the accuracy isn't always the best. But that's expected. As it gets further out, the confidence goes down, even if it was the European model that showed that. Okay, so notice as we push this into time, we do have that system that we've been talking about the past few days, right? It's pushing off the coast, lots of severe weather across the Northeast today. I haven't checked the radar, but I'm sure there are storms, and I'll actually just go and check it right now because that's how sure I am. Okay, and now we have the radar pulled up of the eastern United States. Again, this isn't to do with the pattern, if you will, but I do kind of like going over, if you're new to this channel, I do like going over the radar and what is happening currently, and then kind of focusing on what's the video about. And notice that there are those storms. I don't know if they are all severe. We could click on the warnings. I'm assuming at least some of them are, and yep, you can see right there into Pennsylvania. Thankfully, it's not an outbreak of severe weather in terms of, every county has some sort of a warning, but the ones that are warned definitely have some threats. And notice that it's not just the winds, it's also decent sized hail with this storm. It's not too extraordinary, it's just penny sized. Still could do some damage to vehicles and whatnot. There's one approaching the capital of New York, severe thunderstorm warning, that you could see that hail is much bigger. Obviously it won't be throughout the whole storm, but right, if you get under the quarter size hail, you'll really feel it'll be really a lousy day for you once that occurs. But hopefully not many people get impacted by that. I do want to say into Canada, really much of the same story. Severe thunderstorm watches. And look at the backfill of the precip, the backwash, if you will, of this system. Look at that. It's you could tell that there's cool air just falling behind the system. It's usually what we see in the winter or late fall. And with this system, again, that's why I'm calling it a fall system, or that's why I called it a fall storm. This doesn't look too impressive. Well, it will get a bit more impressive as we get into the overnight hours. And then notice that first wave of storms that was potentially going to materialize didn't across New York into 3 or 4 o'clock. So that probably was a good thing. It dropped less rain as a result, but definitely still the threat is ongoing. And actually, if you were to take a look at the weather model, not the GFS, but let me just quickly show you the high res model. It's the model that only goes out to 18 hours, and notice that it does have those storms developing and actually potentially kind of back developing into Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Virginia into the overnight hours. So yeah, this threat isn't really done yet, and you could see New York, potentially Long Island, Connecticut still in that rain by tomorrow in the morning. And if you were to take a glance at that total accumulated precipitation, again, it's not necessarily what's going to fall from this system that's impressive. It's already what's kind of on the ground and what this could due to already those very soggy soils, and some locations are bound to see at least 2 inches in those thunderstorms. And again, this radar doesn't even show the full timeline of this, as it's still ongoing at this time. NAM 3KM, another high-res model, still shows it, and look, it actually redevelops thunderstorms pretty vigorously tomorrow. That is a rather new update. That is something that the models were showing yesterday across Boston, Cape Cod area. Now it's further back across the Northeast. Look at that. Definitely impressive in terms of total accumulated precip. yeah, that, it's gotten quite a bit worse, those rain amounts, quite a bit higher. So stay safe, folks. You really don't want to be risking it. Turn around, don't drown, and all those other precautions. Because, yeah, quite a bit of rain looks as if it may be on its way, and it's constantly evolving. You can see it just changed from yesterday quite a bit already. Okay, regardless, that's our system. It pulls away. One good thing about it is that Hurricane Larry will meet it, and the cold front will be stronger, will drive off that hurricane. So it won't really impact the United States other than for some rip currents across the eastern seaboard. So for folks that are in the water and have water activities that take place anywhere really from Florida all the way up to Maine, this, exercise precautions. Obviously, rip currents aren't anything new for folks in areas in that part of the world, but definitely could be exaggerated this weekend due to Larry, even though it's that far off the coast. Okay, what we start seeing now with this pattern, well, we see a bit of a break. We do see a storm system try to develop into the weekend across southern Canada. It is really the circulation of it's further up north, but the impacts really just stretch into southern Canada. Doesn't really impact much of the United States or even some parts of southeastern Canada, like Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa. They don't really see much out of this. What it does try doing is developing a little cold front kind of on the bottom side of it. There could be some showers, storms extended into Sunday, Monday. Definitely, again, nothing too impressive or extraordinary. But what we do see is that as he pushes forward, we see another system develop further to the south. And what this system does is, well, it brings a cold front that does affect more of the United States. Notice it does have some vigor, and it does combine with some tropical moisture across the south, so that does induce quite a bit more rainfall than there typically would be, and that does kind of circulate across the south and bring quite a bit of rain for those areas. And look, this precip makes it all the way into southern Canada according to this model. So that's definitely an impressive feat of tropical activity being abundant and moving to the north when it's allowed to, and that's kind of a clear example of that. And again, you can see that was a large system, but this isn't anything that's kind of what's to come after this is really the big storms. So watch this carefully. What we do start seeing, which is a clear indicator of a kind of a more fall pattern, is rain finally back across the northwest. Usually that does happen, right? The Seattle area, Oregon, Washington, they do start seeing a lot of rain in the fall and winter, and this year's no different, especially with the La Nina. They could be seeing a lot more of this. And notice, look at that, snow, rain, nice. That is good news. They are so dry in those areas that they absolutely need it. And what that does is, well, that Pacific moisture works with already moisture from the tropics and relatively humid and warm air masses across the U.S., and that could give birth to some pretty large systems. Notice this one doesn't really, it fails to kind of form the connection. That definitely could still change. This is, 300 hours out, but it definitely has a strong circulation. You could just see all this warm air, it's pumping out ahead of it. Those anomalies are extreme, I could tell just by looking at that surface map. And look at that. A lot of areas here will be in the 90s, potentially even hundreds. And again, it's almost late September here. These are the overnight temperatures. Look at that, 99, 90, all the way into Michigan. And obviously where it is cool, once that cold front passes through, that weak kind of version of it, it will get much cooler. And look at that right there. Pretty explosive cold front with all that warm air, cool air behind it. We definitely have to watch for some severe weather. Notice some snow showers kind of on the backside of that. And it races into the northeast. What we see after that, well, the northwest doesn't catch a break. Look, another system. This one is much more snow-filled, and that's kind of been a trend with a lot of these models. They introduced quite a bit of chilly air into portions of the northwest, and I could show you that by showing you the anomalies. This one is the GFS is showing a rather extreme anomaly here. Not all models are as excited about that. Some are just showing slightly cooler temperatures there, but that's all it takes in order to kind of form a more snowy pattern, especially with all that precip the northwest usually sees. And with all that below average condition, most of Idaho ends up seeing some sort of snow. Montana into the Yellowstone area, potentially the first snowstorm of the season. And again, out ahead of this, extremely warm temperatures helped by this high pressure right there, and these two low pressures pumping tons of moisture. We don't get to see how it kind of uses that moisture, this GFS model, but I assure you that this system, if we were to look 100 hours out, it would develop into a pretty nasty system. And again, that could already be happening a bit earlier. The system prior to this one It looks as if it has potential to develop into something big. And yeah, look at those very, very warm temperatures, but right behind that storm, equally as cold temperatures. And look at this into Minnesota, potentially 80s. Look how much of an anomaly it takes at this time of the year to create 80s and 90s into Minnesota. And hundreds further to the south. It's always kind of catches me off guard how quickly the temperatures go downhill. That type of anomaly earlier on in the year would create easily would create 110 in the summer, and now it's maybe 90s. So definitely interesting, but I guess that's part of the process. We could start looking at the snowfall accumulations at this point. Of course, unfortunately, only goes out to 108 hours. Usually, it takes a bit longer to process the snow kind of maps. I want to show you the previous run of the GFS to show you that this isn't the first model run of the GFS that does this. So again, this is the current system, pushes off the shore, and there we have the kind of exaggerated precip for the northeast, unfortunately. And we do have some moisture across the northwest as early as this weekend, but that's not the main system. Notice we do have that low pressure. That first one that passes through doesn't have any impact, but that second one towards Monday and Tuesday does develop that cold front, and you can see the GFS does show that interaction with that tropical moisture, kind of sends it up to the north. And look at that right there again, pumping out very warm air out ahead of it. That's why this tropical moisture is headed in the northern direction, because of the orientation from this high pressure and that low pressure 540 line right there, again indicating some chilly air. And look at that, we have a system that arrives on the northwest, doesn't really fully plow through, it kind of just lingers with its precipitation, but definitely still supplies some moisture to this system. Kind of races again, fails to make a connection. This is the prior GFS model run, so you can see there are already some differences between that one. But notice that towards the end, the GFS still shows some chilly temperatures. Again, not as drastic as the latest version, but it still shows that cooler temperature anomaly. And what that would mean is obviously more snowfall, quite a bit of it potentially for British Columbia, Alberta, into again even the northwest, say Wyoming, northern Idaho, western Montana. And total accumulated precip would also be a bit higher, and that is good. They need that. But look at that across the south. That's definitely a concern. All that moisture just pooling there. Let's take a look at the Canadian. In order for there to be a consistent pattern, I don't want just one model to show the signs of it. I want several. And so again, there's our system. Notice it lingers across the northeast for a few days, and as it pushes forward, there's our system that the Canadian shows much stronger than the GFS. It does bring some impacts into the northeast, but still mainly just for southern Canada. Then there's that second one that follows really quickly after it. This one does have impacts. It brings a cold front into Missouri, Iowa, Illinois. Definitely a bit more impactful, and it does benefit from some of that tropical moisture, maybe even some sort of a tropical storm at this time. Again, the tropics are still very active, and we have one right now across the Gulf that really is very not far off land, but could still develop into a tropical storm very quickly before it does. And won't be a major hurricane from that has time to develop, but it could still bring tons of rain and impacts. And look, the Canadian, it does show moisture across the northwest, and it does actually bring in decently chilly air. You could see right there, it's not as far out because not as significant, because this model only goes out to 240 hours, but it still shows the heat kind of further towards the east and a bit chillier towards the northwest. So I could actually show you the North American view of this, and I'm sure that there would be much more chilly air to the north, as that's kind of where it will start. And just to show you, compared to the GFS anomaly, it does show obviously a lot of that cold air into southern Canada as well. And it kind of rides that. I mean, it's like a classic La Nina pattern, honestly, shaping up here. Sometimes, again, during La Nina winters, this cold air makes its way much further, but favoring the northwest, it's giving an indication that it's that it's definitely kind of aligning with that, even though it is still September. It's where you would expect the chilly air to be on a La Nina fall or winter. Let's take a look at the European. Again, another model I want you to look at and see if the verification of this pattern. Notice we have those systems. Look at them just kind of racing across that one. First one, less impactful, does bring a bit of chilly air into central Canada, if you will. Then we have that second one, develops much stronger, has a cold front, especially the European gets excited about that. Look at that, across upstate New England, lots of rain. That's good. They're actually in a drought right there. The areas bordering Canada versus the coastal areas that are just inundated by that heavy precip. And look, that cold front lingers several days of kind of just training thunderstorms across the Midwest, and that's definitely going to be an impactful system. And do we see some chill air starting to make its way towards the northwest? We see a lot of moisture, lots of rain, lots of precip. Again, this only goes out to 240 hours, so it's not as far out, which is why the cold air isn't as profound. But we're still seeing already signs of it, even in the medium range, which is really anything under 240. And you can see that there are some signs of chillier air. This is basically what makes up the European ensembles. It's actually 51 individual models. So yeah, it's often good to look at what individual ones have to say and kind of gives us a good look at what's potentially to come. This is especially used on snowstorms and to see if there are any trends, shifting to the east, west, north, south with the snowfall or whatnot, or with the hurricanes as well. But notice, I just want to take a look at 15-day predicted snowfall. And look, this is what one model shows. P1, P2. If there's any trend, you notice that it's snow across the west. Not so much for southern Canada or the southeast, maybe a bit right there, or southeastern Canada, obviously not southeastern United States. But notice that it's really the British Columbia, the Northwest, and in order to produce amounts, especially like this in the next 15 days, that would require quite a bit of chilly air, to say the least, and definitely a lot of models to support some sort of variation of that. While yes, it usually does snow here, that's definitely a bit aggressive and an aggressive start to the season. Some models aren't buying that as much, more for Canada. Still would require quite a bit of chilly air for it to be that widespread. However, there's a lot to show it further into Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Washington, Oregon. Look at that. That is extremely impressive right there. Into Colorado, Wyoming, again, that's, Denver maybe even getting on some of that. That is very impressive. Much of Wyoming there. And I'm just going to run through these individual models and show you that there are some that don't agree with that. Like this one, it still shows some pockets of very light snow. But there are some that, show definitely a incursion of cold weather and snow. Even something like this, that does indicate maybe at least an average pattern. And something like this would indicate a cooler pattern for sure. And there obviously are a few models that get overly excited, it seems, like this one where it shows potentially feet of snow across the mountains. And yeah, definitely something that I've noticed when I've been looking at these ensembles. Look at that. Yellowstone would potentially get up to a foot of snow right there next 15 days, so that's not that far out. And again, it's supported by several ensembles at this point. I want to show you the GFS ensembles, right? So I showed you the GFS model. Let's take a look at the 31 members. This is the Snowfall ensemble as well, so it just shows us how much snow will fall. Again, I wish I could show you the whole U.S., but it only shows us by region, so I'll just focus on the Northwest as that's where the activity will probably be taking shape. Notice the next really few days, obviously nothing and no snow being added on. However, as we put this out into motion, and this won't be fully loaded because it's only out to 264, so that's a bit less than 15 days. But look, it already shows some snow, some of the ensembles across Idaho, Montana, areas that you would typically see snow first of the season, but definitely a bit early. And this one doesn't go fully out in time, but if you go just that little additional 100 hour, look at that. Many ensembles bringing snow into, Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. Decent areas, seeing decent amounts of snow, and I mean decent areas, I meant to say decently south areas, seeing decent amounts of snow. Obviously, if I were to pull up the temperature anomaly, which I can't on these individual models, you would assume it could be pretty chilly across the northwestern part and southwestern part of Canada. Northwestern part of the United States and the corresponding southwestern part of Canada. So yeah, that's basically all I have to cover to you or tell to you today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. I just wanted to give you an update on the pattern. I showed you the European model, the Canadian model, the GFS, and their respective ensembles, excluding the Canadian ensembles, which I don't know if they even are accessible. Regarding the situation across the Northeast, obviously stay safe, folks. This definitely is something that hopefully won't be a repeat of what we saw even a week ago. I think that was around a week ago with Larry, maybe a bit more now. Hopefully we don't, but it definitely is something that warrants more respective coverage from more professional weather sources. So again, for official info, always go to the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center, because this does not look too good, especially with the newest updates. There looks to be quite a bit of additional rainfall across the Northeast with this system, especially in the last 24 hours. It's been added on quite a bit of that rain. Look at those amounts, 3-4 inches. not good. All right, thank you guys, and stay safe. See ya.